So the movie begins on a baseball court, where the game starts as soon as the whistle sounds. The Wolves are in trouble at first, but they make a comeback in the final seconds. Dean passes the ball to Mason, and Mason hits the final winning shot. But while throwing the ball, he caught it among the people at the same time. A terrifying black shadow appeared in the sky. It was an entity, not a human, and Mason was terrified. He runs into a locker room, pulls out an old box, and quickly breaks it open. I don't know what it was, but breaking it down eased his nerves a bit when the rest of the team arrived. So everything seems normal to them, and these people start partying in the joy of their victory. But in the episode, while Mason is taking a shower, a black smoke comes out of the drain and reveals the same terrifying entity. It takes the form of the one he had also seen on the basketball court, and this time, it is burning. It was like coal. First, he reaches out and strangles Mason, and then he burns him alive by throwing his burning punch inside his mouth. He came out of the burning washroom. His friends were watching him but could not save him, and he was burnt alive. Then, in the next scene, we meet a new character, Chris. As a new student in the same school, as soon as she arrives, she notices that every child there is staring at her strangely. Here he is locked with the mission itself, and upon opening it, he sees the same intact piece inside. Mason had already broken it when Mason's friends come and start fighting with him. They said that you cannot use this locker because it belonged to our friend, these people. People make fun of him here, but then a girl named Ellie comes and starts supporting him. And this bully group joins in and starts teasing Chris even more. He also gets angry and hits a boy who is passing by at the same time. They see all this. Chris gets detention as soon as he comes to school, but Ellie, this time too, she supports Chris and tells the teacher the truth, due to which all the kids get detention from school and get punished, and all this leaves Chris's life untouched. Despite this, Chris does not thank Ellie, instead telling her that he didn't need anyone's favor, and then poor Ellie also leaves sadly. Now Chris was standing there alone. She took out the same intake box from her cabin. She was once scared when she opened it. Inside it was the skull of a small child. But as soon as he took out the skull, he realized that it was not a real skull. It's actually a whistle shaped like a skull. As she was looking at this whistle carefully, she started hearing strange, terrifying sounds coming from it. But he ignored all these voices. He thought of saving this city, and suddenly the school bell rang and he did not save that city. And now, keeping those intake pics in her bag, she came to the class where, as soon as she kept the bag under her, that intelligent 20 fell from his bag, and a boy complained about it, saying, "Look, sir, this is strange. The poor have brought some things." She got up politely and gave this intake piece to Sir and told him that I found this in my locker. Even the professor was quite surprised to see this intake piece. Now he starts examining it, and all the children gather around him. Looking through a magnifying glass, it was revealed that the words written on it were Kaaba. Pixin, a girl, immediately searches it on Google and tells her that it means death summons, summoning the dead. Now the professor tells all of them that this property belongs to the school, and I will keep it now. After which all these children leave from here, and then, when the professor sees this intimate piece, when he checked the price on his laptop, he was surprised because this piece was worth thousands of dollars. Now these people had come out of the school, but then he realizes that his book is left in the class. When he goes back to get it, we are shown the class scene. The professor saved that city. We're thinking about it because they wanted to see if it even worked. As soon as he blows the whistle, its terrible sound even breaks the glass here. The professor could not understand that all this happened due to the influence of this city. He thought that something had broken outside. When he went out to see this, Gray came inside at the same time. While picking up his book, his eyes also fell on the same city. When he went closer to the table to see the city, his eyes also fell on the laptop screen. It was also fascinating to see that such a whistle cost thousands of dollars. Well, Ray now walks out of the class, and we see outside that this time there was a boy standing with him who calls himself a priest, but he also offers Chris drugs, much to Ray's chagrin. And Ray tries to attack him, but Noah easily defeats him by showing him a knife. He also gets you released when Chris Wire asks Ray about this guy. He tells me that in the eyes of all the big people, he is a very good proselyte, but in reality, he's a drug dealer. In the name of teaching the Bible to children, he takes them to church and drugs them there. Please stay away from this. On the other hand, when the professor came back inside the class, when they open the box, they don't find the whistle inside. Actually, he had stolen Whistle Ray, which he also shows to all the children at his party in the evening. The poor professor is left searching for the whistle in the school until evening. At this time, there was only one man in the school who was cleaning the school. But apart from that, the professor was also hearing strange noises in the school. So when they go out and check, they find a strange thing in the gallery. The entity appears, limping and heading towards them. Before the professor can recognize that he's not human, that PN would come from behind and call them towards him. And when I look back, the stump is gone. Then the professor would ignore these things and go back to the classroom. And now he could see that entity standing right in front of him. Before they could think anything or run away, that entity also tore his chest from the earth and placed its hands on his. She stabs him in the chest and then grabs his lungs and crushes them, due to which a black-colored liquid comes out from the professor's mouth and his. There he dies mercilessly. On the other hand, we now get a scene from a children's party. It is shown where a strange idea comes to Grace's mind. Now, because he was the one who told the professor about all the whistles while searching, so she says, I know this Vizan works to bring the dead back to life, why? No, we should also try this as an adventure. Right? Chris felt very strange after listening to her. She seems to be about to leave, but Eli stops her and Grace. She also blows that whistle. Everyone here heard the whistle blowing, but a boy needs to hear someone's footsteps instead of a whistle. He heard the sound of and was very frightened by it. When she told everyone about this, everyone made fun of her, and then Chris left from here. Now at home, when Chris was busy with her work, suddenly he sees someone standing on a tree outside his house. Just then, Deppie comes into his room with coffee. When Chris asks her, can you see anyone on the tree in front of you? She turns around and, when she looks, she finds that the entity had disappeared from there and reappeared after a scene cut. We see Grace at home, preparing for an assignment, and she feels like someone is trying to get her to do something. He is coming behind her, but she ignores all this, thinking that it must be her brother. But she was a little dead too now when she decides to go inside from here. Then suddenly, someone touches her face from behind. She gets scared and looks back. He was her brother, but he wasn't tall enough to touch her face, and she was much taller than him. Was torn away, but he repeats it again to convince himself. She thinks it must have been her brother who touched her. But as he goes inside, we again see an evil entity behind him. Well, the next morning we see them all at school. Upon returning to school, he receives the shocking news that his professor had died, whom he had seen perfectly fine yesterday. All these people together start praying for him in the assembly, and then Eli finds the person sitting on the chair in front is seen doing very strange things. His head was turned the other way. At first, Eli closed his eyes in fear, and when he heard this, when I thought of telling Chris, I realized it was just my imagination. These people discuss among themselves these small things that happen to them, just like at night. Chris seeing an entity, and now Ellie, Kato Torrento relates all these things and says, look, it's possible that Mason, the boy who died, was Whistle. It might be his, and we should send it to his house, who knows? All these incidents are happening to us because we took things belonging to a dead person. With this in mind, Chris goes to Riley Mason's house, where they find the door open. Suddenly, in a very strange way, Mason's mom come forward and take them to an intake room. Everything here was intake, everything was old. Now she returns the whistle to Chris Mason's Morum, but Mason's Morum refuses to take it and says that it never belonged to me. He now reveals the shocking truth about this whistle. No one can buy it. This whistle finds people herself. First she chose my mission, and now she tells you, Chris, hey, I didn't save it, it was saved by one of our classmates. He felt that saving it might bring the dead, because it was written on it that it was a date summons, so this auntie should now tell them the real meaning of this. It is said that summoning a date does not mean summoning a dead person, but rather summoning one's own death. Now both the girls are finding his words strange. That auntie tells that the time of death of every person is fixed, but whoever hears this whistle, his time of death comes early. And what is even more shocking is that the person dies at the age at which he was originally destined to die. That is, if someone's death was written at the age of 80, so after hearing this whistle, he would instantly become that age. He would grow old and die, and now Eli was beginning to think that this lady was mentally ill. But Chris was currently thinking about the deaths of Mason and his professor, the reason for which no one has been able to understand yet. She now goes to the hospital to find out the cause of his death, and somehow she manages to enter the record room there. After searching through many files, they first find Mason's file, where his post-mortem report was, and post-mortem, it was clearly written that it was the dead body of a 40-year-old man. This means that whatever the lady was saying was true. Mason's death, if written at the age of 40, so at that time he had grown very old and died at the age of 40. Chris is now very scared. She gets scared because she knows that the sound of this whistle will hit her. All his friends have heard it, and now danger looms over them all. Now as Chris and Allie arrive at the party where all the rest of their classmates are, then a boy tries to stop her, and she bites his nose in anger. Because this boy was the same priest who used to give drugs to all the kids, she then tries to move forward so she can see all her classmates. But he doesn't see Grace anywhere here, while Grace is shown to us inside a maze. By the way, this table was kept on horror theme, that is, everything here, it was scary. But in front of Grace, something really strange started happening. He saw an anteater here, which then started chasing him. Grace tried to escape from it, but the entity kept coming after her. Then she thought, no more, she would fight this. She kills the entity with a weapon in her hand. But instead of anything happening to the entity, it itself falls unconscious. When she regains consciousness, she runs, but the way ahead was also closed. She was trying to pass through a small tunnel. Then that entourage caught him by the leg. Press here does not come courage. She uses all her strength to free her leg and move through this strange tunnel. Finally, Grace reached the bell that ended the game. Before she could save the vine, the old woman hanging from above grabbed her mouth. And with her mouth sucking all his strength, she made him old in a minute. Grace barely manages to grab the vine before she dies, and when Dean arrives, he is horrified to see her dead body. But when he sees her face, he doesn't even recognize that it was Grace. He was gone from here now. He now gets Allie and Chris to come to school and tell him everyone tries to explain how there's a curse on them, because they heard the whistle, because of which they have invited death closer to themselves, and now these people will die when they grow old. Dean couldn't believe all this. He was only 18 years old, how death had crept up on him. To calm himself down, he takes drugs and goes home. On the other hand, we are now shown Ray. When he was sitting alone on the roof, suddenly blood started flowing over him. But the very next moment he realized that it was just his hallucination. All of this made them understand what Ellie and Chris were saying. It was true, so the next day they all go to meet Mason's mom. Her condition is very bad now, and she is about to die. She explains that death cannot be sold, but its path can certainly be changed. That means death can be transferred to someone else can take it as a sacrifice. At this very moment, Chris sees his own death in the mirror, a terrible death that frightens them, and at the same time, the woman also looks inside the same mirror and dies at the same time. Arson cuts to show us Dean on the other side, who still did not believe all this. He is upset, and when he turns on the news, he finds Grace's death. And he goes into shock, wondering if Chris and the rest of his friends were really trying to convince him what he was saying was true. At that very moment, his door opens and a demonic hand comes out. It looked so scary that Dean was so scared that he slammed the door shut. He tried to do this, due to which his hand got injured and the whole place was filled with blood. After that, he came to the same door and tried to close it by placing furniture there. But it was not a human being. Whoever comes through the door, she was an entity. There was a ghost, which now and then comes out of his water drop, and from behind his, stapling his hands inside the body, he passes them across the body. Hearing her screams, her parents come here. Those who see him in this state are horrified, and thus Dean dies. On the other hand, we see Ray come up with a brilliant idea to cheat his death. He thinks that Noma, who is a bad person, he shouldn't even be in society, thinking of transferring his death to her. Follows him and tries to kill him when he meets a lone Chakao. But Nauba was also Nauba. He easily overpowers her and takes the gun from his hand and shoots him. But Ray had seen that he wouldn't die from a gunshot, which is why he had brought the gun. Now he catches hold of Ray and puts his blood on him and kills him. But just as he is about to transfer, Krish and Ellie arrive there. They try to stop him, but he doesn't listen to them. Before he can transfer his death, he dies in that very second. First, his arm breaks into pieces and falls apart, and then his entire body gets crushed, and he dies right there. His death was as if he had been crushed by a machine or a train. We are then shown that only Chris and Ellie were left here. They both now plan to fake their death, Eli having an insulin kit at the time. She tells Eli to give me all this insulin and then drown me in water, and when I stop breathing, you revive me at that very moment. By cheating death like this, maybe we can escape death, and then I will do the same thing to you. These people use this place to complete their plans, and after applying it, Chris even sees her death once before drowning in the water. But she is not afraid of him. Ellie submerges her in water several times, and when she sees that Chris is about to die, then she takes him out of the water and tries to revive him. She gave him CPR, even gave him electric shocks, but nothing was working. We are shown Chris's hallucinations as he fights to the death. Her death kept pulling her under the water, but she kept trying to get to Chris's side, where he could hear Eli's voice. At this time, he is missing every moment with his father Ali, and death was still pulling him down. It was here that Nova, who had been unconscious, regained consciousness. As soon as he regains consciousness, he starts searching for these three, to kill them, without knowing that his real enemy has already been killed. Now he breaks the shutter and comes right here where Ellie and Chris were. He also turns off the lights, which also shuts down the electrified machine, with Ellie trying to revive Chris. At this time, Eli could also see his death in front of him, but she does not give up. She shows courage. She keeps pressing Chris's chest with her hands. Chris finally hears Ellie's voice and sees a little light. In her dreams, she floats towards that light, and here she really comes alive in real life. But when she came back to life, she saw that it was Ellie lying on the floor. His death was killing him, and his blood was falling on the ground. Before she even dies completely, Nova arrives and accidentally touches Ali's blood, due to which now Eli's death curse gets transferred to him. And now Nova, instead of Eli, must face his own death, begins to appear, which was in the form of an old man. Seeing this, he gets scared and shoots at it with the gunpowder in his hand. These bullets hit him and bounce back. They come, and he is killed here in agony. While both Nova and Eli survive the ordeal. Well, now the scene is done and many months pass in the movie. Chris and Ali are still together and have become best friends. Chris has visions of her own death several times, but she doesn't pay much attention to them, because she knows she can defeat her own death until the actual time of her death arrives, and she never expresses this fear to anyone. Now in the post-red scene of the movie, we see a new girl coming to their school. He is now given the same cab that was previously given to Christ, and upon opening the cabin, he finds the same whistle that Chris found, and she goes into the assembly the next morning with this whistle. Chris and Ali try to warn him when they see the whistle in his hand, but because they were very far away, the girl could not hear his voice, and she heard it in the microphone. This whistle was blown, due to which all the people sitting here now became victims of the same curse. What was going to happen to all of them now that Ellie and Chris had barely escaped the curse? Was Chris Sorelli the one to save them all? The movie ends with this mystery.